Hi my lovelies, how are we today? My name is Tara and I do one-on-one mentoring for those who have come out of narcissistic relationships to help them step into their power and gain their life back. And today I really wanted to talk to you about the moment I decided to leave my toxic relationship. And this one is a big one because it is the most hardest decision we could ever make for ourselves. To leave security, to leave the known into the unknown, to leave a person that we have had a child with, to leave a person that we depend on financially, and step into the absolute darkness, into the unknown. And I, at the time, had a 3-month-old daughter with my narc, and I just remember I was crying pretty much every single day by that point. I remember sitting on our bed while he was at work, bawling my eyes out, and just thinking that if this is how I am feeling now, what am I going to be feeling in 5 years' time? And I imagined in that moment, I envisioned what my life was going to be like in 5 years' time. What was I going to be doing? How I was going to be feeling? What was I looking like? And what came to me was that I was going to be a walking zombie with nothing left inside of me, completely drained, no tears left to cry. There'd be nothing left of me from what I was already feeling in that moment already. And I just kept thinking, I cannot live like this anymore. I can't emotionally, mentally do it anymore. And mind you, I grew up in a very loving household. My childhood was, I don't want people to take this the wrong way for people who have grown up in not so nice households. But this is just so you realize that it's all within how we value ourselves. I grew up in a very amazing childhood. My parents, I don't think I've ever witnessed them argue. I grew up in a very loving household, very loving. They've always supported me in everything I've wanted to do. So whilst your environment definitely does have a play on the way that you value yourself and with certain situations that you end up in, people who grow up in really loving households can still end up in toxic relationships because, as I said, environmentally, with what people are saying to you, has the most dramatic impact. But it all comes down to our self-worth and how we see ourselves and value ourselves. As I said, I was very supported in my childhood, but I didn't have a lot of confidence within myself. I did not have any self-worth within myself. And I don't even know where that stems from. And I still found myself in an abusive, toxic relationship. And I remember thinking that, I know what a loving relationship looks like. I grew up in one. I've seen my parents, and this is not the way my parents treat each other. This is not the way my parents speak to each other. I knew this was not right. I knew this was wrong. And to gain the courage to leave someone when you have a 3-month-old baby, my savings account was completely drained. Not completely, but I barely had anything. I had no job. I did have a full-time job that I ended up quitting to be with my partner because he lived in the countryside, I lived in the city. Our pregnancy was not planned. And so I decided that, of course I would be the one making sacrifices because that's what happens when you're in a narcissistic relationship and you're not the narcissist. You're the one that's always constantly making the sacrifices and putting him or her first. So I left my full-time job, to live with my ex. And so, yeah, no job, hardly any money, and I knew that I basically had to start my life from scratch, but really that wasn't how I was going to start my life. I don't know. I just knew that with my 3-month-old daughter, I was not going to allow her to grow up in this kind of environment. And for those that have children that have been in that environment, that it is the hardest thing to do is to leave a relationship, especially when you are trauma bonded. So when I say this, please don't take any offense to what I'm saying, because I understand how difficult it is to leave. But I just knew that I was not going to have my daughter grow up in this environment, seeing her mother being treated in this kind of way, seeing her mother not stand her ground and have boundaries and being walked all over, and me just walking around being a miserable guts because I'm completely depleted. And so, and I never told my family anything. I was so ashamed for the relationship I found myself in. I didn't even realize how I got to the point I did. It's all baby steps. And then to the point, like, you don't even notice. And then one day you look at yourself and you just think, how the hell did I get here? How? How did I allow myself to get here? And I just remember thinking, I gotta go. I can't live like this anymore. I wasn't allowed to have my friends and family over. That was a big thing. Any support for me was completely discarded. It was all about him. I remember when I gave birth to my daughter, I had her within 2 hours. I'm in that percentage of women that can't feel their contractions. So I'd been contracting all day. That had started by an argument with my ex and I, and not knowing I was having contractions. And so I had my baby within 2 hours. It was like 8 o'clock at night. And because it happened so quickly, after I gave birth, like, I couldn't hold her or anything. I fainted. And my partner at the time, he never asked if I was okay, how was I feeling, like, literally, like, as if nothing ever happened, as if I never even gave birth, but he was holding this baby. Didn't ask how I was, like, just literally nothing. And the day after, because I was allowed my friends and family over with where we were living, that's like another story. And not there's anything to it, it's just he was the typical isolation. And anyway, I wanted to stay in hospital because I felt more at home and looked after by the nurses in that hospital than what I did living with him. So I really wanted to stay as long as I could, and I was allowed to stay in there as long as I could. The nurses were so amazing, so supportive. And his words, I remember them so vividly. He said, because mind you, he had lost his license, okay? So he couldn't get to the hospital and back home whenever he pleased. He had to get rides in. And so he wanted to go home because he was stuck at the hospital. He said to me, sorry, I just remember, like, my top was up and it looked like my boobs were sagging. He said to me, "You're fine. You can breastfeed. I want to go home." That's what he said to me after I'd just given birth to our daughter. I'd fainted, but that's okay because I'm being able to breastfeed. So he wanted to go home. So again, it was all about him. As soon as I gave birth, it was all back to him. That 5 minutes of me giving birth was too much attention on me, not him. And those words are just, they're the one thing that really has stuck with me since that happened. And I knew our relationship wasn't going to get any better. I had poured my heart and my soul. Like, I have no regrets. I literally had nothing left to give to this relationship. Nothing left. I knew that I gave my heart and soul into everything to make this work. And it still was not good enough. I was recommending family counseling. I was giving him constant compliments. I was doing everything, and it was never good enough. It was not that it wasn't good enough, it was never enough. The thing is, with a narcissist, you have to fill their cup. And then once their cup is full, the next day, it's a reset. It's empty again. Don't mind filling the full cup the day before or that morning even. That doesn't matter. Once their cup is full, it's back down again. It's kind of like you've reached a new level and now you have to start from scratch again. So I knew I had nothing left within me. And I was calling my mum. Mum, I gotta come home. I can't do this anymore. She didn't ask why. Mind you, I had no idea I hadn't even heard of what the word narcissist. I had no idea what a narcissist was. I'd never heard of gaslighting. I've never even heard of emotional abuse at that time. I didn't even know that was a thing. So I just thought this was like a normal relationship. I literally did not know any kind of abuse. I learned all of that after the relationship. Because I was still within the situation, I did not have a bird's eye view of the situation. All I knew of is how I was feeling at the time. I couldn't see all the situations that I was in where he was being manipulative and gaslighting me and emotionally and mentally abusing me. I couldn't see all that. I just knew that I had nothing left to give. And so, but obviously my mum could see signs. So she didn't say anything. She just allowed me to come. Not allowed me, of course. She took me in. And I was like, Mum, I've got to come home. I can't do this anymore. So I waited until he went. No, so I remember. Let's backtrack a little bit. So I called Mum, told her. And so she arranged for my sister to come over and help me the next morning. But before that happened, still that same day, I told Mum. That night, I said to him, I'm leaving. I'm leaving tomorrow. And the thing is, the one thing in our relationship that I never had empty words. Never. And like I may come across as quite confident now in the relationship. There are times where I was confident and I did stand up for myself, and there are times where I allowed him to walk all over me, allowed myself to be manipulated. But the one thing I never did was have empty words. If I say I was going to do something, I was going to do it. And so I never, ever, ever threatened to break up with him. And so that night I said to him, I'm leaving. I'm leaving tomorrow morning. What he said back was, the only thing that he said back was, well, you'll be hearing from me in a letter the next time you hear from me. There was no fight for me. We'll fight for, me and our daughter. There was no sitting down talking about it. There was no, why, what's wrong? Why do you want to break up? None of those things. It was, the next time you hear from me will be in a letter. That was it. And we went to bed. And the next morning, I waited till he got to work, and my sister came round, took my stuff. I left him a letter telling him why I felt that I've needed to leave our relationship, and that if he wants to, that we can still work on this and come back together. But I knew within myself, I had to see it. I had to see him be taking these actions to bettering himself, to be going to counseling, because with narcissists comes some kind of addiction of some kind, whether that's sex, drugs, alcohol. Mine was all three. I needed to see that he was doing a lot of self-improvement and a lot of self-reflection, and knowing how the relationship was making myself feel. And so from then on, I'll make other videos about from what happened then onwards, because then we went to court for 3 years, and it turned into like a massive shit show. So yeah, that's how I decided to leave my ex and how I did it. I just knew it was a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, leave. I knew that if I was to ponder on it and procrastinate on it, I wasn't going to leave. And I had been feeling this way for quite a few months. So before I even gave birth to our daughter, and there was a lot of scarcity in leaving a partner whilst you are pregnant. And so there was a lot of thought around it. And yeah, when I sat on that bed looking at myself, that was like the most important and the most revolutionary thing that I came up with, was seeing myself in 5 years' time. If this is how I'm feeling now, imagine yourself in 5 years' time. How are you going to be feeling? What are you going to be doing? Are you going to be seeing your friends and family? I knew that I was going to be a walking zombie with no emotion, just nothing, just walking around the household, being on an autopilot, no emotions left. And it was a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 moment. I'm leaving. Called my mum in that moment. The next day I was gone. The more you procrastinate on it, the harder it is going to leave. You already have enough reasons to leave already. I guarantee. Because the one thing that I know when I was the few months leading up to it, I remember thinking, but like, the small things, they're not worthy of breaking up over, because they're such small things. Well, that's not really worthy of breaking up over with someone. But it's the little things that accumulate to be a big pile of a shit show. So just know that you already have enough reasons to leave. And the thing is, sometimes whilst you do have enough reasons to leave, you don't even need a reason. If you are not feeling it, if you are not feeling taken care of, if you feel like there's not two people in this relationship working on it together consistently, not just words, or yes, I am going to go to therapy, yes, let's do this, yes, do that, but with no actions followed, they're just words. So if you are feeling that you are not being enough, if you feel that you're not getting what you need, that is a reason within itself to leave. When you're dating someone new and you're just not feeling it, you're just not vibing it, that's enough to not continue into making it into a relationship. The same with being in a relationship. If you are not feeling that, like if you just know that this relationship isn't working, especially if you're in a narcissistic relationship, because it's never going to work. They come into our life for a reason, but that's another video I'm going to make. But just know that if you are not feeling taken care of, if you feel like this is not okay, that is enough to leave the relationship. You don't need all of these bullet point excuses. And just know that once you leave, the universe will take care of you. Like, it absolutely 100% does. When you step into the unknown, so many incredible things happen because it's out of our control. We have nothing left to control, and that's what the universe wants. When we're trying to control things, the universe can't deliver its magic. It can't do its thing. When we let go and we step into that unknown, we can't control anything because there's nothing to control. So the universe can finally work its magic. Remember, I had no job, hardly any money. I moved into my parents' house with a 3-month-old child, with no child support because I had just left the relationship, obviously. And the most incredible things started happening. Yes, I went through a dark night of the soul. Again, I'll make another video on that. But so many incredible things started happening for me. For me. Okay? Just, you have to step into that unknown. You have to take that leap of faith, knowing that you are doing the right thing by you. Okay. I will love you and leave you with that. I do have a Facebook support group that I have just created. So it's called the Spiritualist Breakup. So find me on there, and it's going to be a community support place for you all. And so it's going to be a safe place. I have to accept you in, so it is a safe space. It's not a public place. It's a free group. And if you do want to do any one-on-one mentoring or support, please message me on my Facebook group and I will link it down below. Okay? Mwah. Love you.